My dearest young people, it is a great joy to be here with you to celebrate this Sunday Eucharist. I want to welcome all of you to the Archdiocese of Denver. I know that you have been here for the whole weekend, and I've heard that very good things are happening here in your encounter with Jesus and with our faith, our Catholic faith, and the gift of our faith. And it is precisely that gift of faith that I wish to reflect on with you this morning, is putting our faith in Jesus, in a person, and in the encounter with the person of Jesus. Because it is only in that encounter of the heart with the person of Jesus that we fall in love with Jesus and that life is changed forever. That we truly become, as St. Paul reminds the people of Galatia and reminds us today in our own time, that through faith you are all children of God in Christ Jesus. And that is the great revelation that Jesus gives to us. Jesus' mission was to reveal the Father to us, to teach us our dignity as human beings, and to show us how to live as human beings, that we are truly the children of God, that by being created in the image and likeness of God, from the moment of our conception, we are in the heart and mind of the Father who loves us eternally and unconditionally, whose deepest desire is that we come to know and to receive our true identity as his beloved sons, as his beloved daughters. And Jesus reveals that great truth. We see Jesus as the one and true Son of God. It is Jesus who enters the world to reveal the love of the Father. And Jesus, in today's gospel, is praying in solitude, and the disciples are with him. That means that they are praying quietly, and that they are alone with Jesus. And we know that Jesus often went off by himself to pray. It shows the importance of prayer, of entering into communion with the three persons, with the Father, with Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, of taking time to be with them. And especially if Jesus had to do it in his time and enter into quiet, we, even more so today, have to do it. Because all of us know the noise that surrounds us. I would say probably 99.9% of you have your own cell phones. And you know how those can consume you as you're texting away, or as you're receiving texts, or as you're tweeting, or doing other things with your phones. And they can become distractions for us. Jesus in the gospel asks his disciples, "Who do the crowds say that I am?" And we see that there's great confusion among the crowds. Some say he is Elijah. Some say he is John the Baptist. Others, one of the ancient prophets, have arisen. And the people and the crowds are confused. They really know that Jesus is special and unique, but they're not quite sure who he is. And then Jesus asks his 12, "But you, who do you say that I am?" And note that it is Peter who responds, the first among the apostles. And he says, "The Christ of God." He understands Peter is the Messiah. But then, interestingly, Luke notes that Jesus rebukes them and directs them not to tell anyone. And we could think, well, why does he do that? And part of it is because they understand him in the understanding of the Messiah is the one who is to come to free Israel and make Israel great. Not the suffering servant that we hear of in the prophet Isaiah and in the first reading. In the reading from Zechariah, the Lord gives the people of Israel a promise, and that promise is a prophecy that he will pour out a spirit of grace onto the people of Israel, the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And the people, during the time of Zechariah, are returning from the Babylonian captivity. And as they are returning, Jerusalem has been destroyed. The temple has been burnt down. There is no more temple. If you were old enough to remember 2001 and when the Twin Towers in New York City came down and what that was like, or maybe you have seen videos of that. I can remember 3 weeks later when I flew into New York City to go to the installation of the Archbishop of Newark. The thing I had always looked for when I flew into that city were the Twin Towers, and they were no longer there. And so one can imagine the temple, so much more important to the Jewish people, no longer being there. And they wondering, what is this all going to be about? They shall look on him whom they have pierced. They shall mourn for him as one mourns for an only son. They shall grieve over him as one grieves over a firstborn. All of those words, written some 500 years before Jesus, we see fulfilled in Jesus. Jesus is the gift and the fulfillment of this prophecy. And the prophecy promises to the inhabitants of Jerusalem a fountain to purify from sin and uncleanliness. But that fountain is not a fountain. That fountain is Jesus Christ. And the fountain that flows is from his side, from his pierced side, blood and water that flow upon us. For those of you who have seen the Passion of the Christ, remember the image of the soldier piercing the side of Jesus and the blood and water flying out onto Mary and John, the soldiers. The fountain is the person of Jesus, the divine person, the only Son of God. And yes, he was mourned, but 3 days later, he rose and conquered sin and death. Jesus then goes on and speaks of how the Son of Man must suffer greatly, of being killed, and on the third day being raised. He himself gives the prophecy of his passion, death, and resurrection to his apostles and to us to give us hope. He then reminds his disciples that if anyone wishes to come after me, he must take up his cross daily and follow me. And it isn't just the big crosses, it's also those little crosses that we experience every day. Those small crosses that every human being experiences. Maybe we stub our toe in the morning as we get out of bed. and experience that small cross. Or maybe it's the small cross of being stuck in traffic, bumper to bumper, and as we grind our teeth. Or maybe it's a little bit bigger cross. If you're a football player, you're in the midst of a tight game and you drop the pass. Or maybe it's the cross of losing a boyfriend or a girlfriend. All of those are crosses that we must bring to Jesus and take up and follow him. Whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. Every disciple is called to make himself or herself a total self-gift to the Father, as Jesus did. These readings speak to us, first of all, in terms of the encounter with Jesus. Jesus today asks each and every one of you, my dearest sons and daughters, who do you say that I am? Jesus asks that question not of your head, but of your heart. Who do you say that I am? Because each and every one of us, as a person of faith, must answer that question. We must fall in love with Jesus. We too are called to give ourselves completely to Jesus and to make ourselves a total self-gift to him. Whatever vocation we are called to, whatever type of work we may do, whatever our mission is in life, we are called to give ourselves to Jesus. First, because that is the only way we will ever experience happiness as human beings. And as St. Augustine reminds us, our hearts are restless until they rest in you, in Jesus. And so I ask you to meditate this week upon that question. How do you personally respond to that question? Who do you say that I am? Encounter the person who loves you eternally, who knows your name and your particular mission. And that brings us to the second point, that when we put our faith in Jesus and put our trust and confidence in him, we discover what our particular call and mission is in life. Again, my sons and daughters, know that you have a particular call and mission that only you and you alone can ever fulfill. No other human being can fulfill it. Only you. And that is true of every human being. That is how great the Father loves us. That he loves us and calls us and has a particular call for each and every one of us. And he knows you better than you know yourself. And that is why it is so important to turn to him, to take up your cross, to deny yourself, and to say, Lord, what do you want me to do? I am yours. And then listen in quiet, in solitude, to what the Lord desires. And finally, as Jesus has given his life for us, so too are we called to make ourselves a total self-gift for him. He did that on the cross for us. Every time you and I gaze upon the crucifix, we see the depth of Jesus' love for us. And the great thing is that Jesus makes that one sacrifice present every time we celebrate the Eucharist, that we will celebrate in a few moments. Have you ever meditated upon the words, reflected upon the words, "This is my body given for you. This is my blood poured out for you"? Not just the plural you, but the singular you. Because Jesus is speaking to you when he speaks those words. That the priest, as he voices those words at every Eucharist, is the voice of Jesus, the bridegroom of the church, who is calling out to every soul, "This is my body given for you. This is my blood poured out for you." It is a wondrous gift that he has left for each and every disciple. And we too are called to imitate that, to be like Jesus in our world. And if we truly become like Jesus, it changes everything. And we will grow in holiness, we will become the saints we are called to be, and we will have an impact on our world that even we are not aware of. Because always remember, my dearest young people, Mother Teresa, Blessed John Paul II, were persons just like you and young people just like you. Maybe in a different time, just decades ago, but because they loved Jesus, they changed the world. And it was not about them, but it was about Jesus. As we continue with our celebration of the Eucharist, as we open our hearts to the Lord in the gift that he has given to us in the Eucharist, I encourage you, first of all, as you receive the Eucharist this morning, to return to your places and to ponder in your own hearts. Hear Jesus asking you, "Who do you say that I am?" And my beloved sons and daughters, speak to Jesus heart to heart. Open your heart to him, and then listen to what he speaks back to you. For each of you are called into that particular relationship with him. And as the words of consecration are spoken, hear those words, not just in a general way, but for you. "This is my body given for you. This is my blood poured out for you." And then we will be those who follow the words of Jesus. "If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it."